This is your no BS, not too overly technical guide between choosing the Apple MacBook Air 15 and the Apple MacBook Pro 13. Now in this video, I'm gonna walk you through why I was deciding between these two laptops and why I end up having these in comparison. You might be thinking, Ben, if you have the MacBook Pro 13, shouldn't this be the MacBook Air 13? And no, it should not be. And I'm gonna walk through why. Now, first and foremost, this is my wife's newest laptop, and this is my newest laptop. I've pulled the trigger and purchased, and I'm going to keep this Apple MacBook Air 15 as my daily driver. Now, it's been over 10 years since I have purchased an Apple MacBook product and kept it for my personal use. The last time I bought one was in 2010 when I was in college for graphic design, and I think it had an i5 7 series processor. So this is a huge upgrade for me compared to that laptop so many years ago. So I'm really excited to have it here in the studio. But I'm gonna walk you through why my wife decided to purchase this laptop and why I decided to purchase this laptop. Now, first and foremost, one of the biggest reasons that I went for the latest MacBook Air was the screen. I really like the larger screen on the Apple MacBook Air 15. My wife, however, felt more comfortable choosing the Apple MacBook Pro 13 since this design has been in Apple's lineup since roughly 2017. This Apple MacBook Pro 13 has not changed drastically since that time. And so she felt, okay, I know it works. I know it lasts. I know people have been satisfied with it. And so I'm going to go with the tried and true MacBook Pro 13-inch. She isn't as, kind of dangerous as I am buying the brand new design of the Apple MacBook Air 15. I was actually very nervous to buy this laptop because this is a brand new design. Now it goes off of the Apple MacBook Pro 14 and the Apple MacBook Pro 16-inch. It has the same very squared off design, flat top, rounded edges, very 90-degree. Whereas with the Apple MacBook Pro 13, you have the kind of rounded top, the very, kind of unibody look that they've had for such a long time. Now, one of the reasons I also shied personally away from the Pro 13 was because of the old design. These feet are one of my biggest complaints for Apple products for years. They are constantly falling off. You're constantly having to re-glue them or order new ones or you lose them. And it ended up being a very poor design because these end up popping off and your computer ends up just sliding around and you bought this very expensive, very quality piece of machinery and then these really cheap pieces of plastic are falling off of it. Whereas with the new design, you have the feet actually integrated into the aluminum chassis of the laptop. So if you can see here, right around the foot, the aluminum actually puckers up and kind of encapsulates the foot. And so these have been much, much better since the design of the 14-inch Pro and the 16-inch Pro. And that was honestly a big reason I chose the Air. And the reason I chose the Air 15 rather than the Air 13 is I wanted the bigger screen. That was really important to me. Anyone can find anything on the internet, including your full legal name, your personal email, your home address, phone number, and even your relatives. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. We've been using Aura to monitor our personal information online for over a year now and have been able to reclaim control of our personal data. This information is accessible because of data brokers who profit by selling your information to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, and anyone else that wants to learn more about you. You can use my link by going to aura.com/BenjiKaiser to try a 2-week free trial to see how many data brokers are sharing your information. Aura's app also features a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitor, internet parental controls, and protects your devices from malware. Aura has almost every internet safety tool you'll ever need, all inside one app. Let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online. If you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial with my link in the video description. For years since that 2010 MacBook Pro, I have yet to be able to buy the correct performance that I've needed. I could either buy a 13-inch MacBook Pro, which I didn't like the small screen, which was a little bit more expensive than I wanted to pay for the performance that it had, or I could buy a 14 or 16-inch MacBook Pro, which I liked the size, I liked the design, but it was way overkill in regards to performance. My day-to-day workflow is done on a desktop PC, which is way more performance than a MacBook Pro 16. And so if I were to buy a MacBook Pro 16, I would basically be paying for way more than what I need. The MacBook Air 15 hits that sweet spot. It's a large screen, but it's not overkill in performance, which provides the right price point for me. I wanted the 16-inch screen of the Pro, but I didn't want to pay $26.99. I wanted the performance of the 13, but I didn't want the 13-inch screen, which is where we now have the 15-inch MacBook Air. And to me, it is perfection. Now, the next thing I want to look at is the reason that my wife is really not super stoked about her 13-inch MacBook Pro. And the reason I did not want to purchase a 13-inch MacBook Pro was the awful, useless Touch Bar. Now, I know that some people, they got it right there for the Touch Bar. I do not. I think it is a ridiculous design, useless design, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Now, mine comes with nice, simple, easy to use function buttons that I think are great. I am somebody who doesn't like technology for technology's sake, which is why I love the top line of function keys on the 15-inch MacBook Air. Now, when the 15-inch Air came in, my wife said, okay, forget it. Return the 13. I want the 15. I don't want the Touch Bar. I love it. And also, the 15 has MagSafe, which is the magnetic charger, which historically Apple has been super famous for in past models until they decided to do the horrible decision to go USB-C charging on models a few years ago. And so she saw no Touch Bar and MagSafe charging, and she's like, forget it. I'm going to the MacBook Air. But then she ordered a really cute case, and she just loves her case, and she's like, you know what? I just love my case so much. I'll just deal with it. I'll keep the MacBook Pro. And I was like, okay, really? I was like, your case is gonna, okay, I'm not gonna argue. That sounds like a great idea. But anyway, so she's ended up keeping the 13-inch, and I am super happy that I went with the 15-inch. All right, now let's go ahead and check the weight and thickness. The 13-inch is ever so slightly thicker than the 15-inch. However, the 15-inch is ever so slightly heavier than the 13-inch. So you can see the weight and thickness coming up on the screen. And then in regards to the form factor, the size of the laptop, you can see that the 13-inch is definitely a good bit smaller than the 15-inch. Now, I have a 13-inch Herschel backpack, and the 15-inch actually fits into that backpack very easy. So this isn't like a large 15-inch laptop. It is a very petite 15-inch laptop. And now as we're moving through the video, if you're curious about the exact pricing and availability of the 13-inch Pro or the 15-inch Air, I'll put links in the description below. I usually don't get commissions on Apple laptops, but I might. So just to keep that in mind, if you do make a purchase, I might get a small commission, but of course, that's at no extra cost to you. And it doesn't keep the channel alive because I usually don't get commissions on Apple. So this one's free. It's free for you. Yeah. It's all good. It's all yours. Now, one of the concerns I had when purchasing the Apple MacBook Air 15 is it's so thin and light. I thought it would be really flexy and just unsturdy, just to use a very just crass, uneducated term. But as you look, you push on the top cover, we don't have much push on the top cover. And then as I go to try and flex the laptop, you can see there's no flex, very, very minimal, if any. And so for me, that was really exciting to see when I got the laptop in. It felt very sturdy. You can see looking at the front of the laptop that the screen is a bit thinner than the bottom of the laptop, the keyboard deck. And so it really makes up for a nice sturdy design. It's way better than I expected. I was honestly expecting to get this laptop in, give it a little flex test, open it up, kind of look at it and be like, you know what? It's just not what I hoped for. But this has actually impressed me way more than I expected. I was never a big fan of the Air 13. It always felt so cheap. Me and my wife always joke that there's like the BMW 3 Series, right? Like it's not really the ultimate driving machine that they promote. Like if you really want the ultimate driving machine, you need to go to at least a 5 Series. Like the BMW 3 Series, like the X3 and the BMW 3 sedan, it's just kind of like, okay, you know, yeah, you can be welcomed into the BMW family, but it really just isn't a true ultimate driving machine like the M series, right? Like that is a BMW, the M5 or, the MX5, right? Like those really beastly driving machines. And I was worried that this would be like Apple's MacBook Air 13. It's like the 3 Series of BMW. And if you own a 3 Series, I'm sorry if I've offended you. That's just my opinion. You're welcome to leave this video now. But that's kind of how I have felt about the MacBook Air. Apple was like, okay, we'll make an affordable laptop for the everyday consumer. But for me, it was never enough power, never enough storage. It just felt so chintzy and light, and I just never felt comfortable, never felt like, okay, I'm buying a real sturdy Apple MacBook product. I've probably offended a lot of people now, but that's okay. Sometimes we need to talk straight how I feel, and we just did. Now, the one thing that I noticed is ever so slightly, you do have a larger trackpad on the 15-inch MacBook Air. So if you're looking for a slightly larger trackpad, the MacBook Air will deliver that for you. Personally, I think the 13-inch trackpad is plenty big. It's plenty big for the screen you have here. I don't think they needed a bigger one, but they did have a bigger surface space, so they went ahead and gave us a larger trackpad. Now, the screen on the 15-inch MacBook Air is ever so slightly brighter and also a little bit more color accurate. So if you're looking for a brighter, more color accurate screen, the 15-inch MacBook Air would definitely be a good choice for you. To me, the bigger screen was just amazing, and it's been great. Even with something like just watching movies in the evening, it's such a better experience. Now, one thing I was very curious about was the audio quality, because on the Pro, we have upward-facing speakers, and I thought, okay, the Pro is just gonna have better audio. There's no upward-facing speakers on the Air, and all the Windows laptops that I have reviewed, anytime there's no upward-facing speakers, the audio is atrocious. So I went ahead and I tested the audio, and it is just as good as the Apple MacBook Pro 13. I'm not gonna say it's better, because that's a really subjective statement. But here's a quick audio sample so you can hear for yourself the difference between the two laptops. Now, they both have webcams, and here's a quick sample of the webcams in use so you can see the difference in how they look. This is the webcam on the Apple MacBook Air 15, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. This is the webcam on the Apple MacBook Pro 13-inch, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. Oh, of course, I'm a huge fan of blue. So I went ahead and got the blue Apple MacBook Air 15. You cannot get this color on the Pro 13. My wife wasn't into it. She's like, I like the classic MacBook look. So she went just for the classic silver, but I just couldn't help myself. I have a blue iPhone. I had a blue computer in the past. I love blue. You can see there's just blue everywhere in my office. I mean, my whole office is blue. So I was really stoked to be able to pick up the blue 15-inch MacBook Air. Now let's go ahead and jump into the performance so you know which one is right for you. Now keep in mind, these are both the exact same laptop in regards to the components. We have the M2 chip, we have 8 gigs of RAM, and we have 512 gigs of storage. So that makes us a perfectly even playing field. However, in the MacBook Pro, because of its thicker chassis and the design of it in general being different, you have a fan. And so if the laptop gets so hot, the fan will actually kick on and cool down the laptop. However, with the MacBook Air, they have a straight thermal chamber design, which means that there is no fan. So any job that is required to cool the laptop is going to be done by that thermal chamber, which means if you push the laptop too hard, so hard that it can't keep up, it will resort to thermal throttling in order to keep the laptop cool, which is why we see slightly better performance out of the MacBook Pro 13. It has a little bit more space in that chassis to keep those components cool. And if it does need to cool the laptop more, it doesn't thermal throttle. It instead kicks on that fan and cools the laptop through the fan. Now, looking at Cinebench R23, you can see that we do edge out the Apple MacBook Air ever so slightly with the Apple MacBook Pro 13. Keep in mind, we're running the same components. The main difference is the fan inside of the MacBook Pro 13 and the slightly thicker chassis to allow more room for cooling. Also keep in mind that there is a little vent along the back panel of the chassis here. Now there is a little vent here, but it is substantially thinner. Now on the Apple MacBook Pro 14 and 16, there's actually vents here down the side, but the only vents on the Pro and the Air are right here. Now going ahead and taking a look at Photoshop, Puget Systems benchmark, wow, I must say I'm very impressed with these thin and light on-the-go laptops from Apple. Now, when the M1 launched a few years ago, it scored a 565 inside of Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark. Since M2 has now launched, you can see we're in the mid 700s for both of these laptops, which is a fantastic score for Photoshop. I think my 2014 Apple MacBook Pro 15-inch was in the low 500s. So to see a 200 and some point upgrade between, an old MacBook Pro, that'd be saying something like the Pro 14 or the Pro 16, is now being beat out by a 15-inch Air and a 13-inch Pro. You can see that Apple is moving along, but not jacking the prices up for their product. So for me, having last owned a 2010 MacBook Pro with an i5 Intel processor, this is a big upgrade because I'm pretty sure my Intel-equipped 2010 MacBook Pro probably would have scored in the 300s or 400s for the Puget Systems Photoshop benchmark. So this is double the performance of what I owned a few years ago and at the exact same price. That is awesome because when I purchased my MacBook Pro in 2010, it was roughly $1,600 to $1,700. So actually it was less because with tax, this was like $1,534 or something like that. So incredible to see that the performance increases with Apple, the build quality continues to increase, and we're still keeping the same price point, but for more performance. I'm very happy with these two products. Personally, I chose the 15 because I thought it was a better value, had better offerings. My wife chose the 13 because she wanted a smaller laptop, and she just absolutely loves her case. Links in the description if you're ready to make a purchase, and click or tap the screen here for more videos helping you with your purchasing decision. I'll see you in the next one.